Thank you for joining us for today's Ipsos MMA webinar case study of how Nationwide unified fragmented data into a strategic business driver. Throughout today's session, you will remain in listen-only mode. However, throughout the webinar, please submit your questions online using the Q&A feature. Time permitting, we'll try to answer questions at the end of today's session. However, if time runs short, your question will be answered by email. Today's webinar is also being recorded and will be directly emailed to you. So now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to welcome today's first speaker, Doug Brooks, Chief Client Officer at Ipsos MMA. Doug, you have the floor.
Great, thanks, Alan. Hi, everyone, thanks for joining today. This is Doug Brooks. I lead the global client team at Ipsos MMA. Been here for about 14 years and been in this industry now for just about 25 years. I'm joined by Jamie from Nationwide, and Jamie, maybe I'll turn it over to you for an introduction.
Thanks, Doug. Jamie Byram. I lead our marketing, data analytics, and research team here at Nationwide. I've been at Nationwide for about 17 years and in the industry for a little over 20. My team here at Nationwide is focused on delivering actionable insights that enable data-driven marketing decisions and optimizations. So we're really excited to be here.
Fantastic. So just a bit of background on how we arrived here today. Going back a few months ago, we collaborated with Nationwide and Forrester to create a case study on the program and how it has evolved over time, covering many of the topics that we will discuss today. There's a copy of the case study available at our website, and we'll recap this case study as well upon the completion of the webinar today. All right. So before we dive into the discussion, there are 4 topic areas that we will cover today during the webinar. Each of these have contributed to the Nationwide roadmap that we've collaborated on. So the first area we'll cover is data strategy. The second is really focused on cross-functional collaboration and change management and moving the program to a more holistic capability. The third is not only the delivery of insights, and that's what we'll focus on, but also how those insights have led to driving measurable value for the business. And the fourth is a combination of the discussion around how we have moved to a fully unified measurement system and where this capability will evolve to in the future. All right. So Jamie, the first area that we want to talk through is maybe you could spend a few minutes just providing a snapshot of where you were with the program a few years ago, what the program looked like, and how you started the journey, right? And how that journey has evolved over time.
Yeah, absolutely, Doug. So I was hired into this role about 4 years ago in 2021. And at the time, marketing did not have a centralized support for data analytics or research at Nationwide. You had teams kind of all across marketing handling all of that themselves, which led to some big issues for us at the time. For instance, we had very disconnected data. We did not have a clearly defined or well-managed process for collecting data, let alone modeling it or distributing our marketing data. Honestly, like marketing data Nationwide at the time was anywhere and everywhere. It was on people's desktops at our agencies. It was out on different SharePoint sites. It was kind of scattered across everywhere, which made it difficult to really understand, where to go to find the data you're looking for. Additionally, we didn't have a standard taxonomy at the time. So we've got several internal and external teams that deployed marketing campaigns. And at the time, they were all really using their own naming conventions, their own naming taxonomies. In other words, everyone was really speaking their own language. And we didn't have a translator to understand, what language they were speaking. So even if we had centralized data back in those times, we didn't have a way to combine it and do standardized measurement or modeling or even reporting at a granular level. We also didn't really have any type of centralized measurement for a lot of what we wanted to do. We had some marketing teams kind of handling their own measurement. We had some campaigns being measured, some not being measured. some teams doing their own research. It was really kind of scattered across lots of teams, which really kind of enabled and led to our limited measurement capabilities. You know, Nationwide for probably over 10 years has tried different marketing mix modeling capabilities, and you know, they all kind of fell short in different ways. You know, historically, our marketing mix modeling really focused on short-term KPIs. In other words, you know, how do we, you know, grow next quarter? And in my eyes, and in the eyes of some of our marketing leaders, that really discounted the benefit of some of our longer-term brand health, you know, and long-term marketing impacts. Obviously, Nationwide is a company that's been around for 100 years, and our brand means a lot to us. And so we felt that some of the historical marketing mix models would really give us kind of the short-term view of the world and not really understand how we should be looking at, you know, spending, you know, marketing dollars or more brand building focus. So that was kind of another pretty big issue. So that is that's your quick snapshot, Doug, of what things looked like back in 2021 when we first started this journey.
Thanks, Jamie. So what was that tipping point that made yourself and the organization realize that this needed to change, and that drove that change?
It's a good question. I think, you know, first and foremost, probably the biggest thing was for us, we couldn't answer the questions that were being asked from us. You know, we worked really closely with our chief marketing officer and his leadership cabinet. And, you know, at the time they were asking us some really tough, but solid, good questions that we just didn't have answers to. You know, first and foremost, how much demand is marketing generating as opposed to, you know, sales and product and operations? You know, how do we determine, you know, how marketing gets credit for the sales and revenue that we do drive? And, you know, especially in the financial services world, that can be tough. We are primarily a B2B company. And so you obviously have, you know, folks like wholesalers who do an incredible job at driving business to our company. We have unique products that also have an impact on sales. And so really at the time, we did not have a really good way to tease apart what the product or the pricing or the wholesaler or marketing activity was really having in driving revenue and sales. And so first and foremost, you know, like I said, we really just couldn't answer questions that were being asked for us at that top level. You know, some of the questions, I'll give you some examples. Our CFO was asking, you know, what's the value of brand advertising, and how do I split my dollars across brand advertising versus, you know, some of the short-term advertising that we do, like say some of like paid search. Are they, you know, are short-term and long-term brand building mutually exclusive ideas, or should we be looking at them, you know, in a different, more strategic way? And honestly, where should marketing spend our next dollar? We're always looking to continue to optimize our marketing dollars, and so that was really the big question our CMO was asking is, you know, where should we spend the next dollar? But the questions also came from a lot of the marketing line of business partners that we worked with. It wasn't just our leaders. You know, the partners that are really responsible for leading the day-to-day campaigns that we have underway across all of our businesses. Nationwide is a collection of 10 different businesses across both insurance and financial services. On the insurance side, we have businesses like home insurance and auto insurance, commercial insurance. On the financial services side, we have, you know, things like annuities, retirement plans, and others. And so we have marketing teams that support all of those businesses. And so they're looking for ways to measure the incremental revenue impact their campaigns are having on sales, and also just how do they optimize their campaigns on a day-to-day basis. And so again, those are questions we were being asked, and we realized that we couldn't answer them, so something had to change.
Absolutely. So maybe we could spend a few minutes diving in on the first area. We'll call it the foundation of this capability, right? The data. From what we've seen across the industry, right, the marketing data hub that your team has developed at Nationwide is industry leading, right? And it's at the center of the success of this program. Could you take us through a bit of the journey around the data hub, around what were those big challenges? How did you overcome them? And what drove the success of the development of this marketing data hub?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, as I mentioned, when we first started the team in 2021, we didn't have a data strategy. And so that was goal number one for us, is to build out that data strategy and help us come up with a way to really, like you said, build a foundation around how we could move forward with other things like measurement and automation. And so there were a few key areas that we focused on in building that foundation. Process, people, technology were really big for us. On the process side, there were a lot of things that we had to change within the way that our marketers were working. So for instance, I mentioned an example of marketers using their own taxonomies and naming conventions. Getting them to change the way they work is not an easy thing to do. And so it involved a lot of just change management, a lot of working with marketers to show them the value of changing the way they name things and having a standard way to, when they go out to run these campaigns, have standard language and naming conventions we could use, so that when the data does come back to us, it's all in that same language, it's all that same ability. So the process, getting people to change the way they work was certainly a big part of it. People was also a key thing for us. Historically, we relied a lot on agencies for things like data and analytics. We realized that we needed to have people internal to our nationwide teams that were experts in this field, that knew the marketing data inside and out, and could help us automate and validate the data that we were collecting. And so we did go about and make some changes when it came to building the team out, and also looking at things like roles and responsibilities of what our agency was handling versus what folks here at Nationwide were handling. And we did end up building out a team of folks that were the experts in marketing data, who were the central source of truth that knew the data inside and out. And so that was the hiring the team and building on the team was certainly a key component of it. And we got very fortunate in hiring some really great people. And then last but not least is the technology piece. We did not have advanced data technology at the time. We were on some pretty outdated tools for the most part. And so we knew that we had to build out our technology in a way that was future forward, allowed us to tap into things like automation and AI, allow us to employ different tools to bring in the data. Marketing, as most people know, works with dozens and dozens of different data sources, internally and externally. And so we had to have a way to automate the ingestion of that data into a central environment that was a process that now allowed us to minimize the amount of people that took to also manage it at the same time too, leveraging some data technology tools. So yeah, people, process, and technology were really the big focuses for us when it came to building out the data hub. And as you can see in that the slide there, the data hub the technology itself is a combination of different tools. First and foremost is the automated API ingestion tool that we use to connect to a lot of our external data sources. Generally, that brings it into to an internal data lakehouse that we use. We then use the lakehouse to govern, to model, to automate the data, and then use it for, as you can see on the right-hand side there, a variety of different ways across marketing. So things like activation, analytics, visualization, unifying our customer data is a big one for us, and then ultimately data sharing.
Absolutely. No, thank you for that. And the data hub's been a fantastic asset as well, right? For feeding these models on an ongoing basis, for driving the speed and the granularity and the unified approach that that we've been looking for. I'll switch gears with you a little bit. You mentioned a lot of the drivers or the tipping point behind this capability and the roadmap associated with this capability, and a lot of that had to do with not just getting marketing bought in, right, but really expanding the engagement cross-functionally across the business. So a couple of key topics here that I think would be really interesting to discuss for the team. One is, so how did you get the broader set of executives and stakeholders excited about the capability? Where were there areas that you had to lean in on training or change management, right? And were there any skeptics out there, right? And what are some of some examples of how you got different folks to buy into the program to start not only contributing data to it, but to start using it for driving commercial decisions?
Yeah, it's a great question, Doug. And I think first and foremost, we wanted to listen to the pain points from our partners, and that was a very large number of people that we met with. So I met personally with a lot of our marketing executives to get a sense of the questions they were asking, the things they were trying to answer, the problems they were trying to solve. And so, that was certainly a big component of it. We also conducted a lot of stakeholder interviews across our line of business marketing teams, understanding, again, like how are they trying to optimize their marketing dollars? What are some of the big pain points they had from a measurement and optimization standpoint that they were having trouble with? We also then, we got buy-in and met with a lot of folks from outside of marketing. So that included, finance, sales, product and pricing teams, really to get a sense of, one, a little bit of education for them so they can know what we were going to do and how we were building things out, but also get a sense of, what data is available that we maybe weren't tapping into in the past, pricing data, product data, making sure we're using, the right data sources from our finance team. So that also helped us just educate ourselves when we were building out the data hub to make sure we're going after the right sources. And, we had alignment from those teams on how we were building it out. So, we used those meetings not only just to learn about pain points from those teams, but also just to give them a vision of what we were building. And I think that was the way we kind of got them excited about it. So, kind of give them a little bit of hints around, what was coming around the corner and what we were planning to build. So that was a, very, very big part of it. As far as getting buy-in, one of the things we really had to do was address some of the issues in the past with some of our previous marketing mix modeling attempts. Part of that, really the biggest issue was believability in the data. And, we had the issues in the past where, for instance, our spend data may have not aligned with what our agency said we spent, or perhaps our sales and revenue data didn't align with what finance and sales teams said. And so we really had to go about and find different ways to ensure that all the inputs to our marketing data hub and all the inputs to our marketing models aligned with the source of truth from all of our partners. So that was a really big one for us. Part of the way we addressed that was insourcing some of the work that our agency had done in the past. For instance, we insourced a lot of our marketing data work that we, historically for the past many years relied on our agencies to do on our behalf. So now we had the internal, experts that were supporting our paid media teams and our agencies, and that worked really closely, day in and day out with those teams. So it was no longer kind of what our data said versus their data. We all had shared data sets, so we were all working from a central source of truth. So that certainly really helped the buy-in from our paid media teams and our agencies, especially. And then, I think as far as the analytics piece goes too, I think as you worked more and more with them, they understood that kind of the things that we were able to do with the new measurement and where we were going. And so that got them excited about with the potential, opportunity to be able to measure things that, again, we just had no ability to measure in the past. And so, I think the one thing as far as the, you mentioned like the education process, Doug, that was, challenging. I think sometimes we forget when you work in the data in the analytics world. This is stuff that we live and breathe every day, but our partners don't, that are really knowledgeable, and other times maybe they're not. And so I think initially we thought maybe it would be kind of like a once and done process to educate, but we found ourselves, answering some of the same questions, quarter after quarter. And so what we learned was it was probably a good idea to always have a little bit of a education refresher every time we would meet with partners to kind of say, hey, as a reminder, here's how the modeling works. Here's how your data is used. Here's how the output looks. And so the education process is something that was, key for us. And Doug, I'll give your team some credit. Ipsos has actually done a great job helping us come up with different visualizations to really help explain the complicated marketing mix concepts that can sometimes be a challenge for some of our non-technical partners. And so you guys actually have been a huge help for us when it comes to really the education process.
Fantastic.
And the last thing I'll say is helping convince the skeptics. I think the fact that we were now using the same numbers, that the same paid media spend numbers, the same sales and revenue numbers from finance, that was certainly a huge component of convincing skeptics that okay, this is actually a legitimate effort that's underway. The other thing too is we were able to get some quick wins in, which helped out a lot. For example, we started answering some of the tough questions that were being asked by our marketing leaders. For instance, when our chief marketing officer, there's always been a really big effort and impact on measuring our brand health, and that's another thing that my research team does. But now, for the first time in our company's history, we're able to say, here's the actual sales and revenue impact of adding 1 point of brand health over time. And so that's things like that got people really excited. We could actually start to quantify, some of the things we've always known are important, but we never really were able to put sales and revenue numbers behind. And so that was something, as a quick win for us with some of our senior leaders that were really, that got the buy-in, went well. One other example too, Nationwide, as some people know, focuses a lot on our sports partnerships. And that can look like, sponsorships that we have with them. We also have paid media. A lot of times those two things, really go hand in hand. Historically, we've had a tough time measuring the impact of those, especially when you do them together. And using this new measurement technology and our new measurement approach with Ipsos, we're able to actually start getting some quick wins and letting them see what the impact of having an integrated paid media and sponsorship buy was having on revenue, and giving them some ideas around ways to optimize that. And so those are some of the ways, I guess, that as far as getting the skeptics convinced that we were able to employ.
Absolutely. No, that's a fantastic overview. And the other key piece that I'll hit on that I think is always great to see is the indicator that they're buying in is that they're starting to ask more business questions, right? And the range of the business questions continues to increase. And there's been a nice feedback loop there, right? As we've seen, where as the business questions increase, so has the granularity and the sources of data that are being provided to continue to expand the drivers that are being measured, right? So that's been a real success. If I jump forward, so you mentioned the inclusion of the brand health measures. You also mentioned answering some of the key business questions. And, I think it always comes down to taking these models, all of the data, everything that we do from a science perspective, and using it to reflect the business dynamics and the end customer dynamics, right? What is that purchase cycle? What is the timing of it? What are the points along the journey, right, that we can influence? Could you spend a few minutes just talking about how the introduction of brand health and engagement metrics into these models really help to drive that buy-in and better explain the impacts of the upper, mid, and lower funnel investments that you're making?
Yeah, it's a great question. When we first started this team, one of the other pain points, honestly, at the time was our brain health program. It was a program that, even looking at the results themselves, were difficult to understand. Comparing Nationwide to other companies was always a challenge, and the brain health program itself had some skeptics and some believability issues. And so we actually started with overhauling our entire brand health program. We went with a different research company to partner with to really help us put a program in place that gave us sample sizes across our different audience groups. So not only consumers, but also financial professionals on the financial services side, and insurance agents on the insurance side. Helped us put in good sample sizes, and also be able to deliver brain health results back in a way that was easily understood by our marketing partners, that people could actually take action on once they saw those. And so that was first and foremost. And then having the sample sizes that were large enough to actually being input into marketing mix modeling was the key component from the Ipsos standpoint.
Absolutely.
And so, as I mentioned, in the past, we really only focus on the short-term impact with our historical marketing mix models, and so that's kind of the bottom chart there, just that the blue line. But now that we had sample sizes that were high enough, and we had the right brand health partner, we were able to incorporate modeling that gives us a much better sense of how our marketing initiatives, especially our national media buys and sponsorships, we're having on overall brand health. And then, obviously what that helps us to do is make better decisions for the long-term health of our company. So we're not just ultimately just continuing to make these short-term decisions with our dollars, but looking out ahead to say, how can we grow as a brand and make decisions that's really going to drive the ultimate growth of our brand over the long term. And so that alone, this was really a key component that helped us land on this way of doing modeling that has been just phenomenal, especially from our senior stakeholders within marketing.
Fantastic. And along that theme, when we think about marketing measurement for Nationwide, right, there's a portfolio view, the overall brand, the overall business, and then there's a line of business specific view, along with understanding the halo across the lines of businesses, right, from brand or line of business specific marketing. Can you talk a little bit about how the models were tailored by line of business to reflect those unique business dynamics?
Sure. I think there's some obvious ways that we tailor our models to line of business. Things like ensuring we've got the proper marketing initiatives and spend that are aligned to each line of business. And a lot of that was helped through the taxonomy efforts that we standardized with our marketing partners. Thankfully, too, a lot of that has been automated through our marketing data hub. So we have line of business data coming into the data hub in an automated way, again, all using the same language. It's also now validated to our business partners and validated in a way that they have buy-in to. But from a modeling standpoint, I would say there's probably 4 ways that this new framework has been tailored to lines of business. And that would be distribution, products, sales cycles, and customer segmentation. From a distribution standpoint, as I mentioned, our insurance business has a majority of our sales are sold through independent agency partners. We have some business that comes through directly to us through things like internet sales or call centers, but majority is through B2B partnerships. Same thing on the financial services side. So things like annuities and retirement solutions and others, a lot of that's all sold through financial services businesses and financial professionals. So the sales channels in our models really had to make sure that we aligned to the proper distribution channels and understanding how we were getting the business to come in the first place. Secondly, the products themselves needed to be customized. So to give you an example, we have some products where, take annuities. Annuities sells both fixed and variable annuities, and sometimes our campaigns that we run are really focused on one or the other. So we had to make sure we built the models in a way that can answer the product questions when our marketers came to us and said, hey, how does this new annuities campaign, how has it impacted the fixed sales that we got last quarter or even last year? We had to make sure we built and structured the models in a way that had product definitions that, and also granularity that enabled us to answer some of the more product specific questions we're being asked. The third way is sales cycles. And as you can probably guess, sales cycles between insurance products like auto insurance or home insurance are very, very different than financial services products like annuities or retirement plans. So we had to ensure that as we're actually building the models, insurance sales cycles that tend to be a little shorter are built into things like lag effects, and making sure our models took into account the longer sales cycles that happened on the financial services side. Because we put an ad in front of a financial professional, we don't expect him to sell an annuity today or next week. That tends to take more time and take a little longer than things like insurance. So the sales cycles essentially was a really key aspect for us when we're actually building the models. And then the last piece is the customer segmentation that we use. And this is actually a fairly new one for us, and we're in the process of still kind of building this out. But we're looking at ways to bring some of our customer segmentation into our modeling to give us a better sense on how effective our marketing efforts are on driving our focused customer segments that we're really trying to bring into the company. So this is a really exciting one for us. It's a new one that Ipsos is helping us to build out now, but it's another way, again, we're trying to customize to the specific needs of our lines of business.
Fantastic. And I think one of the areas that a lot of folks talk about in the industry today now is, once you build a capability like this that has the trust and is reliable and has been validated, how do you integrate that into the entire decision-making system at your organization? And this chart that Jamie, that you've put together really does kind of highlight the best practice, right, in integrating these analytics from a operational standpoint, also from a frequency standpoint, and then from an activation standpoint, right? When do you use results from different capabilities? So we'd love to get your thoughts on the framework a bit, if you want to talk through it, but also talk a little bit about, what are some of the big game changers for you now and how marketing is operating as a result of this capability, right? And then how are these analytics, how are the results from these analytics integrated into your planning processes and just ongoing decision making today?
Yeah, it's a great question. We haven't really talked too much about attribution yet. Attribution is something that we're really excited about. And for those that maybe aren't as familiar with what Ipsos offers, so marketing mix modeling is kind of the traditional, if you look at the right-hand side of the chart, some of the traditional ways we've measured in the past, which tends to be a little bit higher level, more strategic. So, for us as a Nationwide, looking at our national media buys or looking at some of the higher level annuity campaigns, or even results by channel, so like paid social versus paid search, email, etc. That's the way that we've historically looked at results. What attribution enables us to do is to get a lot more granular into the impact that those campaigns are having, and understanding variances between things like journey or campaign, platform or partner, so is it Meta, TikTok, ESPN, etc., or even down to the placement level, getting really specific on the individual placements. Historically, a lot of this attribution data that we would use was just what we would call last touch attribution. So it was just looking at things from our ad server, as an example, to see, okay, say landing page visit did this Meta click drive. But now with our new attribution measurement, we're actually able to look at a more of a modeled approach to attribution that is fed from our marketing mix modeling. This is especially important to Nationwide because we have so much of our business coming through B2B. Most of our business, a majority of our sales, is not through a website or a call center. So there's no way for us to really, connect a cookie to an actual sale. It has to be through a modeled way to measure. And so attribution that is modeled for us has been something that has been critical. And so the way that we have it set up, we have marketing mix modeling that generally refreshes our entire models 3 to 4 times a year, and then attribution is more of a monthly thing that we always will refresh. And so when you're setting up, for instance, scorecards or dashboards for our partners, we're able now to get really granular attribution data updated on a monthly basis that is giving them a sense of what placements or tactics or partners are actually driving sales, which we've never been able to do before. It's always been, what's driving clicks or what's driving website visits, never to that sales level. And so this has been really, pretty incredible for us from the Nationwide marketing standpoint to be able to get to this level and open up this ability to answer questions and to optimize our marketing in ways we haven't before. And we haven't talked a whole lot about optimization, but some of the ways that we've been able to tap into this new capability have really been game changing for us. So I'll give you one example with one of our insurance businesses. They came to us, last year looking to find ways to optimize their media flighting. And, as most products have, there's generally different times throughout the year where you have higher levels of sales or lower levels of sales. that can fluctuate. And so they were looking to say, okay, when we're flighting our paid media next year, what are ways that we should think about flighting it, the months on, months off, or highs and lows to drive the highest amount of revenue. And so we're running optimization models now for our marketing teams to help them understand, better ways to flight their media, or even better ways to optimize even, lower individual things like, okay, if we have 5 different ways we're buying paid search around branded terms, non-branded terms, product terms, how should I split those dollars across all of those different paid search efforts to drive the highest amount of sales from our financial professionals? And so running scenarios for us has been, really exciting and something that's unlocked new capabilities for our team that we just haven't been able to do in the past.
Great. So Jamie, I mean, what you've shared here today, and I think most of the folks who've joined would agree, is an example of sort of the gold standard, right, in the space and industry leading. So the big question for you now is, now that you've accomplished this and this capability is up and running, where do you see the journey going, right? What's the next area that you might tackle? I'm not sure how much you're comfortable sharing there, but if there are a few themes that you could focus on, that I think that would be great for the folks who join the webinar.
Absolutely. We really started this journey with our 4 largest lines of business. We're now starting to look into, what's that next LOB to expand into, and I will say that we've certainly created a lot of excitement across marketing, and so there's several different lines of business asking us to expand, and so we're kind of in the process now of assessing, what's the next best business for us to expand into, and so really excited about the opportunity to just to go into new lines of business for Nationwide, just to provide more value across the different teams, and so that's a big one for us. The other thing that I would say too that we're excited about is leveraging some of the new customer segmentation strategy into our models. We've been doing a lot of customer segmentation work over the past year or so with specific lines of business, and we're able now to actually bring some of that data into the data hub. And so what that enables us to do is to say, okay, now the data's in Data Hub, we can send it to Ipsos to actually include within our models. So in the future, we'll be able to actually see, what campaigns are driving those within our customer segmentation, what campaigns are driving those with outside of our customer segmentation, to again better optimize our media dollars to drive customers that we were really trying to reach, as a company. And so, we're excited actually. I think we'll have our first set of results this month for some of the customer segmentation models. Really excited to see, some of that work come out and again expand segmentation into other lines of business as well too. So, those are just a couple of the examples that we're excited about. And personally, one of the things I'm probably most excited about is just to see marketing partners leveraging the data to actually make decisions. As analytics and data folks, that's I think what gets us the most excited, is to actually see the work that you're doing being used to make decisions and having a positive impact on the sales and revenue that your company is having. And so it's fun for us to see this being expanded across marketing and for folks to actually take these results and make decisions with them. And yeah, we couldn't have been happier with the partnership we've had with Ipsos throughout this whole journey.
Fantastic. Yeah, so Jamie, can't thank you enough for conducting this webinar. I think it's a great example of what it takes really to stand up a program like this and drive the success. As you've seen, it's a combination of one, getting the data right and investing in this case the marketing data hub, but just in data in general. It's tailoring the analytics to each of the businesses so that they represent it. The work that you've done to drive change management and training and pull in cross-functional executives, and then the processes and technology around activation, around the speed, the granularity, right, and getting the different marketing partners the information they need when they need it. I'll close just by saying that once again, the case study has a much richer set of information around each of these steps and what was done to drive the success at Nationwide, so you could download it at MMA.com. Thank you everyone for joining today. Thank you once again, Jamie, for the webinar. And Ellen, I'll turn it back over to you to close us out.
Well, thank you, Doug and Jamie. That was a really insightful conversation. We do have some questions and we promise to respond to you directly. Also, be on the lookout for a link to today's recorded presentation. That should be coming within the next couple of days. Well, that now concludes today's amazing webinar. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Fantastic. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.